Hey guys, welcome to this final episode of Unemployable for 2024. This is the Friday recap with the full panel. And this was a really interesting, winding discussion. We started off by recapping the year, what our favorite pods were. We then talked about trends that we see coming for 2025. We talked about TikTok. We talked about the Australian economy. We talked about some political stuff around the social media bans, a whole bunch of trends that we see being part of the picture next year based on the year that we've just had. And I think you'll find it really interesting. Right towards the end, we talked about a couple of trends that we are individually seeing, quite surprising, that I think you guys are going to really, really enjoy. And I shared something right at the very, very end, which piqued the interest of the other three guys quite a bit that I haven't talked about before. But I think it's interesting and I think you'll love it. So guys, thanks again for following us this year. We'll see you at the end of the pod and we'll see you in the new year as well. Bye for now. What is up, everybody? Welcome to the final Friday recap of 2024. And we still have the balloons in residence for those of you who missed last week's episode. The reason we have these balloons with the balloon knot and tied to the floor.
It's had to get it in there, didn't you?
To get it in there. Is that we are still celebrating breaking 5,000.
It's an inside joke, but really it's an outside joke. Just Google balloon knot, you work it out.
I'm sure plenty of people worked it out. But welcome back. It is the Friday episode. And today it is a recap of 2024 here at Unemployable. And we want to kick the podcast off with a huge thank you to all of you, whether you're listening to this on Spotify, whether you're watching us on YouTube, whatever it is, we appreciate any second of your attention we've had in this, our first year as podcasters. So thank you very much. Big round of applause for, we are officially.
We're podcasters now.
We are podcasters, Mark. We are.
Baby, we did it.
Part of the trend. And an interesting fact I heard this week is that Australians are the biggest consumers of podcasts in the world. So there you go. That's maybe why we're having some success. Plus they have low standards, maybe.
No, it's because the mainstream media's gone to shit. It's than any other capture.
I reckon half our views are a bit fake. Eric just sit up there into the middle of the night, just fucking review of himself on
100%. I've subscribed about 422 times.
And Eric's mum is our number one commenter for the year.
Really?
And reposter.
Yeah, exactly.
You should see some of the snapshots she takes and then puts it on her Facebook.
So
Number one fan. She's literally like so proud of my son. And then all her friends are commenting in the bot.
I want to start a poll right here and now, in the comments, because we just did this. We just looked back through the whole year. Who has aged the best this year?
Yeah.
Is the worst. Now, I know I'm the oldest here, so come on, all you oldies, you got to vote for.
Let's throw up our first pod, what we looked like.
I think Eric is anti-aged. He's going backwards.
It's my face cream, man.
Is
I
it?
got a new, honestly, I already told you guys.
I don't want to know.
So they got me a face cream. It was $300. I almost had a stroke when I got it.
Is it?
Smells like whale sperm, but I'm telling you,
Was it just your face you're sort of applying that to, or you've got running a pretty slick sort of...
it's my face.
Eric,
man.
how do you know what whale sperm smells like?
Just think about it. Just think about it, and that's what it smells like.
Oh, I can imagine it. So, guys, to kick off today, what we're going to do is we're going to kick off with, I think, let's start with this one, your favorite guests of 2024, the year that has been, because it's been pretty amazing looking back on the year. And it was a bit hard because we pre-record some of them. There's quite a few guests that haven't actually come out yet, so they'll be in next year. But I'd love to get your feedback on your favorite guest personally, maybe one or two at the most, and why you like that guest the most, because we've had some absolutely ripping sessions. Mark, let's start with you.
I feel like starting like Snoop Dogg. So my favorite guest on this year's pod was me. Thank you.
Conor McGregor style.
No, in all seriousness, I had two favorite guests this year, and funnily enough, there were two people we got back twice. So Brooke Triplett, who came on and spoke about shesells.com, helping people learn how to do remote closing from anywhere in the world, and that had a personal connection for me because I saw my sister basically quit her corporate job of 10 years or whatever it was and jump into this remote sales gig. So seeing the power of listening to, like, feeling and listening to Brooke and then seeing it actually change a very close family member of my life, that was amazing. And Rafi Hussain, who came on talking about TikTok Shop. He's just great to listen to. He's got a great voice. He's got a great ability to tell story and make kind of, I don't know, it's kind of technical online stuff sound really, really fun and engaging. And I'm looking forward to working more with Rafi because I thought that was a really good one.
Interestingly, both of those people have a round 2 coming out, I think, in the new year in 25. That's already been recorded with Brooke. She came back again, and Raf, and they were both even better the second time.
Yeah.
So they were amazing guests for sure.
I knew Raf was a cool cat as soon as we're sitting here and we mentioned something and he's like, actually, can we double click on that?
Yeah.
As soon as he said that, I'm like, this guy's a weapon. This guy is a cool dude, you know?
Because it's like often when people come on the pod, sometimes the people would come on for the first time and they just kind of like would go with it. But Rafi was just so present in every little topic that we discuss. And he was just really willing to go deep on things. And I think that's what makes him so interesting and such a good teacher now.
Yeah, he's just a natural educator. The more I've, over the last 12 months, I've really started to understand like what is a natural teacher and or who is a natural teacher and who isn't. Like obviously Adam is a natural teacher, right? It's in his blood. You got someone like Tony, who's a natural teacher from Empowerment. You got someone like Raf. They're just so natural in their teaching ability. And I think they make confusing concepts and topics easy to learn. Sorry, and they break it down.
I didn't make a cup.
The most confusing.
How to confuse a simple topic.
Taught us most things not to do. And
Speaking acronyms.
Raf was a teacher.
Yes, he was.
Was Brooke a teacher as well?
Yes, she was.
She was?
Or was that no, Brooke is also a teacher. And she was she's also an amazing teacher and coach.
Yeah.
There was a really, it's in the next episode coming up with Brooke actually, and she talks about that really profound moment with your sister, when your sister was at a real moment of doubt, and Brooke sort of weighed in with some wisdom at that moment. And in the pod, I paused it with everybody and said, "What you just saw there, that's coaching," and it was so critical to your sister's journey. So. Couldn't agree more. 2 great guests. What about you, James Denham? Who are your 2 favorite?
Well, sort of, not to sort of, I wanted to echo where Mark came from, just a big acknowledgement for us. Like, I'm not a public speaker by any means. I'm super fearful of the camera and whatnot, but pod number 1 was probably one of our favourites because it broke a few barriers down. Was sitting in nervous as fuck, and with half a Valium down my neck. So that was a pretty good pod, I thought. And from there, it's just been a great year and had a lot of fun doing it. But
just before you go on, I'm going to borrow something from Raf here. Can I just double click on that for a minute?
Yeah.
What has been your journey, James? Because that is not a small thing that you just said. There's a lot of people out there that probably would have said no to an opportunity like this.
Yeah.
Had a friend ask them to say, "Hey, I want you on the pod," like I did with you. What has been your journey this year from the moment I asked you to today? What have you learned about yourself and about that whole saying yes?
It was like this whole thing in my head is like, if not now, then when, and I was not given an opportunity, and I thought, well, we'll grab that and, and get over a fear of speaking. I know it's not live and in front of an audience, but it's still pretty harrowing when you watch that first one back. I think I watched that about 15 times with a bottle of wine, literally going, like, fuck, now I don't even watch them. I'm like, whatever, it is what it is. And the feedback's been positive, which has also been good. So yeah, and like the opportunities that have come up across the year, just from some people that have been on the pod, some business opportunities that come up, some consulting sort of stuff. So it's been pretty, I think you got to put yourself out there. And I'm not a massive networker like Eric, but I think, if you want to, you got to put your hand out sometimes, don't you, and shake someone else's to get an opportunity across the line. So just that, but
because you got no nerves now, but you had massive nerves at the beginning, and it just shows you the power of doing.
Yeah, and also at the start, like we'd do so much effort. Who's the guest coming on? I'd sit there the night before, put through GPT, this, that, and do it. Now it's like you're hearing, hi, so what's your name? Oh, cool, let's rock and roll, and it's just so much more free flowing. And also just that, how to win friends and influence people is just ask the questions and shut up and listen. That's what the whole pod's about now. Is you sit back, ask better questions, and it follows a format, and just quite intriguing. Some of the people we've had in the pod. So, which leads me into that. So my 2 guests are sort of polar opposites of the spectrum. Rick Richardson was just bonkers sitting next to that guy in the company of greatness, a proper genius, sitting there just going, holy hell! And like it was nearly 3 hours went by, and you could have sat there for another 2 or 3 hours just listening to this guy's story. Super humble dude, switched on as you felt like a proper dumbass sitting next to him. You know what I mean? It was really good. And then the other guy, I just thought from an age perspective, who was just super impressive, and can't wait to see his journey, is Hamish from Auto Editing. Like, he was one smart motherfucker. He was really, really switched on, and just super articulate, very clear and concise, and knew exactly where he was going. So it'd be really good to watch his journey as well. So you've got a veteran, and then you've got the young buck. I think he's probably the youngest guy we've had on the pod, and by far, in my opinion, probably one of the most impressive as well, from where he's going. So.
I'm glad you raised Hamish, because I forgot about that. I quickly scanned through, and he was very, very impressive young man.
Yeah.
And for those of you who don't know who Rick was, we named the kangaroo Rick the Kangaroo because Rick is the guy that sued Microsoft for $500 million and won and got the check. And from Byron Bay, he actually came to our conference mid-year, and spoke to all of our entrepreneurs. Then he came back with a second event. And then he offered everybody in the community a free one-on-one with him just to give back, because he said, I was so moved by your community of people who were at the event and how awesome they were and how positive they were and how much I got from it, because he's sort of living down there in Byron and living a simple life. And so they were great pods.
And just one thing back to that first point I made about, stepping outside your comfort zone and whatnot, and not to the degree Eric or yourself might get, but people do DM you and give you some great messages of support. So it's quite humbling, but also quite a bit awkward if you have never been an educator or someone that's made any profound impact on someone's life. It's like, okay, this is kind of cool, and I sort of DMs coming in now and people asking for advice, and you can do your best and pay it forward. So
where do people DM you? Just on your social, on
yeah,
Instagram?
Yep.
What's your Instagram?
It's James Denham.
It's James Denham, Denham, guys. Yep. If you want to DM James or be in touch. But, the reason I asked James is because we want all types of people. James is a country boy, super logical, real world experience. Then you got Macro Mark and got Eric. So we're trying to create a panel of very different personalities and people. And I know that, like all great TV shows, like if you look at like Seinfeld or Sex and the City, or any of those, are usually multi-talent crews. And I learned that from Patrick Bet-David. He said, put together a diverse group of people so that it's a diverse group of people that are going to relate. And I know there are people that James is the favorite, Mark's the favorite, and so on. And that's what makes a great pod, I think, for interesting. So really good. What about you, Eric? Who are your favorites this year?
There's so many, but one of the ones that really hit home was Penny. So Penny's one of our coaching clients, and she's honestly an unbelievable lady. And a lot of that topic was around, ADHD and autism, and, how it's affected her family and her business journey. And what I loved about it is just how vulnerable and open she was. And I think, again, talking to a lot of the women out there, and I think it would have resonated with them as well. Obviously, being a woman from the USA who obviously migrated to Australia, and it was just a very good, humble, again, vulnerable story. And to see the successes that she's now had over the last 6 or so months has been extraordinary to see, which is exciting. And I know there's a couple that you'll talk about. So
no, you do yours.
Yeah,
I'll work around.
Yeah. So another one that I thought was pretty cool, from just so much information in regards to learning how to do things differently, was the boys at Mana Vitality when they came in here and basically exposed their whole business model and how they grew their business to $1 million US a month by using user generated content. At that point, to me, it was just like, there's influencer marketing, but the way they use that UGC and how they incentivize them, I think for all of us on the panel was kind of like a perfect educational moment of learning at that point. And again, just in general, for me, I've taken so much out of every single podcast. Like, what I love about this is meeting people, but also getting educated yourself. So there's every podcast, every person that has came on here that has told their story has been an amazing journey for me, and I've learned so much about business and a lot more as well, just about myself and how to communicate and how to articulate and trying to ask the right questions and when to not ask certain questions. And there's certain questions that I want to ask that we just move on to and you never ask, right? There's always so many more questions to be asked. And what I love, and I think what the audience has been loving, is when we pivoted and we introduced the Friday pods, which obviously is just us. And I think it's so important because you can sit there and interview people every week, but when you're sitting here, four of us, bantering about life, about business, about our beliefs, about our values, it really builds a different level of trust with the audience. And yeah, it's been so grateful and humbling to receive, like James said, the amount of messages, DMs that we've been receiving, literally changing people's lives, whether that's them believing in themselves or going into a business or, splitting with a partner, getting into investment property or buying Bitcoin or whatever they believe in. To me, it's been great. And not only that, but it's been great to, like, prior to the podcast, I didn't know Mark really well. I knew of Mark. I knew James, of course, but I now know James even more. I've known Adam for a long time, but it's good to see and sit down and understand each other's background and where you're from and your values and why you make certain decisions. And you can sit here and talk about how you made $1 million in a week and how you lost 1.5 million, a year before, and you can just talk about it in the same breath. And it's good because we're being open and vulnerable. And I think a big thing, what we do is, in the comments that we have, is like, we're real, we're raw, we're in the trenches. We say it how it is. We have a joke, love to have a joke, love to bust each other's balls here and there. And that's what it's all about. It's not just a serious podcast where it's just like straight down the barrel. This is just education, and it's been fun.
I think a lot of the messages that we've shared around with one another of someone taking something that they've seen on the pods and then making a massive life decision have come from those Friday pods, when we're just being open and sharing our story and our values and our vulnerabilities. And just to see, it's been incredible to see that people are actually listening to that and going out there and making really big positive life decisions.
Yeah.
And it is quite humbling. You used that word before. It's something that I'm not used to. And
What also is pretty humbling is losing girlfriends over the podcast as well. When I watch it, because of the non-committal, apparently my non-committal status that Adam throws in there and Eric occasionally. So my goal, but it costs them a bit of money. Yeah, it costs me more than a bit of money. It's just like such a lot of wasted nights. But anyway,
public figure now, Jen.
yeah, well, anyway.
I don't know if you waste your nights, mate. Jesus.
Well, they weren't actually wasted. But, yeah.
So, like, how many times so for those of you that are single, James is on Tinder, it's James then. Like,
It's a funniest story. And the year was when I was on that boat, and it was a Women's Day that I got roped into.
Emma, if you're listening, just fucking.
is that the one I referred you into?
Emma, sorry, Emma, but no, it was funny. So we're on the boat, and I got chatting to these two girls, and one of them said, I met this guy on Tinder or something, and it turned out they both date. One of them was dating James at the time, and the other girl had dated James.
No, she was in the
I didn't hear that.
She was in the DMs, yeah. Like on the phone, both of them. It was just
And they're mates, and I was like, oh, damn it. Anyway, whatever.
So drop in the comments, how many dates do you think James got this year from the pod?
How many did he lose?
They asked did the question go, did he overheat as well with you?
Oh, Juicy. But James just found a nice girl now.
No, not.
Jay's getting himself into trouble.
He does. You line this up. Emma, we hope you're listening. Hey, good luck.
How about you, Adam?
James wants to tell you something, huh?
Oh, so obviously, it's interesting with you, Adam, because like James, Mark, and I haven't had a lot of experience in this space, and you've interviewed and
Which space we talking? It's we've moved on. We got it.
I mean, you've interviewed and have been interviewed by a lot of, very, very well-known people from obviously across the globe. So you sitting in this seat now with us over the last 12 months, right? With us peasants, how does it Yeah.
Talk about like dating down, really, isn't it?
Oh no, I mean I've absolutely loved this last year and working with you guys, and I've always thought that from the start our inexperience in this space is actually kind of good, because I think people want to listen to something different. They want to listen to something local. I mean, you always start local. Hopefully it goes bigger and global in the coming years. But right now, a lot of our audience is Aussies and New Zealanders. And I was really humbled when we saw people posting their Spotify Wrapped, into the socials, and they were showing their podcasts. Spotify saying, hey, this is your year in review. Here's the most listened to podcasts. And we were at the top of a lot of our listeners. And there was like Diary of a CEO, Alex Hormozy, all of this modern wisdom, shows you the top 5 podcasts listened to. And we're at number 1 or at number 2 or 3. Just to be on that page for anyone, that to me is huge, that you can open up an app and see Alex Hormozy or Chris Williamson, and then choose us. That just blows my mind.
More than you would choose them.
Yes.
Especially with that head on there, like fuck, it's almost, it's obviously not a visual game. It's
Just collectively, we're not the most good-looking guys there are, right? When you look at a Chris Williamson, like good-looking unit, right? So no, but and their content's superb. Like, and the fact that people, and I'm not saying this to sort of self-deprecate. I really mean this. And I knew when I started this with you guys, I'm pretty sure I said it to you. This is going to be the hardest of all things I've done, because we are literally a decision with one thumb click. I'm going to watch Diary of a CEO with some world famous scientist or doctor. I'm going to listen to these 4 morons. And people have been picking us. And so for that, I'm genuinely humbled and reminded that 90% of it is showing up and having a crack and being real. So that has been a really huge thing for me personally. And I've actually really enjoyed turning up every Tuesday morning and knowing that you guys are going to come in, and then we do a pod, and then we go have a coffee at a coffee shop, and then we shoot the shit. And I leave feeling elevated. And most of the time with the comments, I feel elevated. And supported. So it's been a really good thing for me. And I'm really proud to say that, we got it off the ground, and I think we did a good job for 4 guys that had never done this before. And I also want to recognize the team, all the people that have helped us in the background. It's been amazing. And we're only just beginning, but
It's getting legs.
it's getting legs. We've got 5,000 subs here, and we've got more on Spotify and Apple and stuff.
Thanks to Eric's mum and all the rest of the Attentioners Club, Hip Hop.
All the rest of the Portuguese community, Cambridge, Ontario.
But for me, the top guests, look, you guys have mentioned pretty much all of them. Not today, the pod that came out just a few days ago with Mari and Fernando, I loved that as well. 2 Brazilians came to Australia, couldn't speak English, hustled their way from a mobile phone repair shop to selling stuff on Facebook Marketplace with no ad spend, and just to build a $3 million a year business, selling magnetic fly screens to camper vans. And used to go around and wake people up and knock on doors and chase vans around the Burley Heads.
Yeah.
Great story. Rick, of course, amazing human being. Kenny from Light My Brick,
Yes, sir.
also an amazing pod selling Lego lights.
Great energy.
I loved that one.
Yeah, $1 million a month selling Lego lights out of Melbourne. So there's a lot of gold there, guys. And that's been another thing that I think Eric and I have just been reflecting on the last week or two, is that then when we started this pod journey, we didn't really understand podcasting or know where it would lead, but we just could see a lot of smart people doing it. But one of the things we're just realizing is that these pods are an evergreen asset. We've gone back and just recently posted on every pod. Is it every pod yet? Where we said, hey, if you want to work with us in business coaching, contact us, and we pinned that comment to the top. But now we've got 205, 210 videos that are out there in YouTube. Some of them are getting 5 views a day. Some are getting 10. Some are getting 100. But when you've got 200 of these pieces of content consistently working, you've got thousands and thousands of people watching your content every day. And since we did that, we're generating more inquiry for the coaching. And you start to realize, we've got this sort of flywheel that's growing, and we've got this asset. But it's not just like going and buying an ad. It's like people have seen a piece of content, they've spent an hour with you, and they're then inquiring to something that you offer as a service. It's a completely different way to do business. And we find that when we get on a call to speak to somebody, we don't have a sales team. We just have a relaxed conversation with people about whether or not we can serve them or not. So it's a really interesting thing to be doing. So
That's,
I think
go on.
So I think one of the other things, just back to your question that you said, let's double click on it throughout the year. It's just the conversations and like real talk about, especially for men, about mental health, depression, anxiety. Like if you look at the Luxus greats, you look at AJ, you look at the guys from, I think it's Jess from CMOS, 3 decades of depression, and just some of the guys, like I specifically remember the one about AJ just opening up about his childhood and going through that, unpacking that story for the whole ether to buy in. Some big deals, some great conversations. So
that was a great pod with AJ.
Yeah,
I
it was.
Been quite choked up at that.
Yeah, 100%. But I mean, that's just one that stands out. Luxus greats, CMOS guys, but just how many people sharing their journey from a mental health perspective, and just being that open with it. I was like, fuck,
especially right now, because as we end 2024, there is a lot of tension. Just to segue into the next part, which I want to get your take on 2025. But I feel like in the feedback that I've gotten, I know you guys have as well, there's been a lot of words like encouragement, belief, support, understanding embedded in the messages, saying things like, your pod has really helped me through a dark time. There's a lot, because the fallout of this COVID period we went through is we had inflation, which has put a lot of families and a lot of ordinary people under a lot of stress. And the number one cause of divorce is marriage. No, sorry, the number despite that, it's still popular. The number one cause of divorce is actually money, right? So, you know, this inflation and stuff that's been caused, Australians right now, I think, are under a lot of financial pressure. We're the most indebted nation from a household debt point of view. The cost of living in Australia is among the highest in the world. We have the least disposable income in the world. So we're trying to provide a voice in that context.
Yeah.
So
I've loved how this hasn't just been a grind and go get 'em type business podcast. You know, my biggest lesson for the year has been around health before wealth, and it's been great to hear the different guests coming on the pod, and even hearing you guys share your stories about how you deal with the stresses and the anxieties of being an entrepreneur. And a lot of the people that are coming to us with these amazing success stories, they haven't necessarily been success stories of grind or working harder. It's generally been working smarter. And I'm really proud of that we haven't just gone out and said, you know, work harder, do this, do that. People are actually working smarter and
also shout out to Perry and also the team for getting guests on, especially getting female entrepreneurs on. There's been some crackers on here. The lady from
TBH.
Yeah, TBH. I had the other lady that does a coaching program about
Nerida.
like some great.
And that's an interesting point, because the female podcasts have had the most engagement.
And there's another lady here, I can't remember her name, and then she had the business model as a two-sided business marketplace she built overnight from $0 to $6 million in 3 months. And she also talked about her deep struggles with alcohol, depression, drugs, and whatnot. It was just
the health and wellness camp.
Yeah, the mindfulness gift card scenario. So I mean, she especially has left an impression.
It'll be interesting and exciting to touch base with a lot of these guests, you know, say mid next year, to see where they're all at, right? You got Kenny from Light My Bricks doing $1 million a month. Who knows if he's not doing $2 million a month next year? And like her as an example, but with the wellness card. And one of my biggest lessons
meant well.
One of my biggest lessons I think this year was, we need to get famous people on the pod. We need to get people with massive businesses so people will listen. That was kind of my mentality. So First thing you do is reach out to people that you know who have big businesses. And what I've found is most of the pods that were the highest viewership were the ones that were a bit more attainable, a bit more, no, I shouldn't say humble, but just smaller,
closer
businesses, closer to where people are, exactly, which you start to get a good understanding, of who your audience is. Because when you start, you don't know who it's going to be. And our audience is changing from 6 months to 12 months, and it'll probably change again over the next 12 months.
If you look at a lot of the guests that got the engagement and got the followers and the subscribers, it was guests that came on and they weren't just telling their story. They were whether it was subconsciously or not, they were speaking to our audience.
Yes.
They were literally speaking to the pain points of our audience.
Yeah.
And some of them were at the very start of their journey in doing that. You know, like Brooke went from 97 members to 597 members from the first pod to the second pod.
Easy.
And that's because she came on and she was telling her story, but it was speaking to everyone there listening.
Yeah.
And
another big lesson that I've had throughout this year is podcasts are a sexy thing, right? And they're an in thing at the moment. And when we first started, I didn't realize how much work is actually involved outside of sitting here talking for an hour to hour and a half. All the other things that happened in behind the scenes. Like we have Perry, who's an unbelievable man. He's a partner in Unemployable. He lives in South Korea. He's a famous actor in South Korea. He's one of the only white male actors with blue eyes. And some of the photos that he sends me in the outfits that they get him wearing is unbelievable. Hopefully,
he's the face of Expedia, and
yeah,
Really?
yeah. So he's, he'll text me and be like, "Hey, just so you know, Monday I got to shoot for this bank, and I'll be offline between this time and this time." But the amount of work in behind the scenes as that guy does is an absolute weapon. He's an absolute legend of a guy. And I'm not saying this to piss in your pocket because I know you're listening to this, but I want to just let everyone know what he does in the background. And we've got Stuart as well that helps us, with YouTube and headlines and tags and all kinds of stuff, thumbnails, and with social media. He's an absolute weapon, who's going to be moving here early next year to be close to us. He's just, there's so much synergies with him. And again, the videographers, we had Richard obviously with us full time for a long time. And now we have him, and we have Jansen, who's a weapon in the background, and some of the boys, Ethan and the boys that come in and help out when needed. There's just a shit ton of work that it takes to create a podcast. And the way we're doing
Jerome
and shout out to Jerome, who's overseas, unbelievable editor, and just fully committed. And big thing is, it's cliche, but the vision and the mission of what we're doing, they're fully bought in to it, and they have full belief in us. And I just want to say as well to Adam, if I sat here we were talking about it before that, say 18 months ago, and where I was and doing business and stuff, to go, okay, in 18 months time, this is where you'll be and this is what you'll be doing. I would have not been here doing this if it wasn't for this guy beside me, pushing me and actually creating belief in myself, in my story, and getting my story out there. So I just want to say thank you very much for pushing me. And he still pushes me. And, and I messaged him back and I'm saying, keep pushing me, because you need people around you, take you outside of your comfort zone and push you through those glass ceilings into the next level. Because sometimes you don't have enough belief in yourself, but it's the people around you. And again, the DMs, the emails that are coming through, keep sending them to all of us because it's inspiring for us. And that's a lot of that and knowing who we're hitting, is we're doing this in silence, really, just hoping that it hits. And the only time we really know that is by the comments and the DMs. So keep sending those through.
Yeah, for sure.
and the shares. If you're seeing this, any clips, share them out there. All right, quick round table on a couple of things. So this year, I would say for me, that I'm talking globally now, we sort of have seen the end of wokeism and the death of the left.
Great Christ.
I think that's been a big global transition. That sort of stuff has really, I think with the US election has really, there's some great things about wokeism as well. Don't get me wrong. I think respect for people and acknowledging and being aware of other people, there is a place for that for sure. But we have seen, I think the US election was a proxy for how a lot of people in the West are feeling right now. So, and I think we'd all agree that's probably a universal thing that the world has seen. What do you think next year is going to be the year of from a global perspective, whether it's business or just energetically on the planet? What are your thoughts on the big shift that's going to occur next year? And I'll start with you, Mark, because I know you've got strong views on it.
Yeah, well, to your point about the left and wokeism and the whole left versus right and the polarity and the cultural wars that have been going on for the last few years, I think that is coming towards its end, or maybe its end in its current format. And I feel like what's being paved at the moment is the accelerationists versus the people who want to maintain the status quo. And so you can think about that in terms of technology. You can think about that in terms of regulation. You can think about that in terms of migration. I think the debate or the framing for the global controversy is going to be around those who want to accelerate technology and move and push things forward, like robotics and AI and technology. And you're seeing that with people like Elon Musk and David Sachs and all these young technologists that are involved with President Trump's campaign. And then you're going to be having those people that are going to want to slow things down, slow down the adoption of AI, slow down the adoption of crypto, slow down the adoption of all these things. And so I think that's going to be one of the big trends for 2025.
It's going to be interesting watching that play out. And I think Australia, talking to us very locally now, I don't think the people in power at the moment, and I honestly don't think either major political party has really all over this.
They're definitely not thinking about it at all, because the latest bill that got the most mainstream attention was banning under 16-year-olds from using social media. Like, that's such a backwards strategy, and it's going to only disable our young children from being involved in the technology and the things that are going to
transfer. That was on the heels of a couple of those types of policies. Yeah, that's honestly, I think the person politically in Australia who understands where people's heads are at the most right now is Pauline Hanson.
Yeah, it's crazy to say, right?
It's crazy to say, but I think Pauline is actually more in touch with how the average Australian is thinking. She's currently fighting a case, and I gave my first political donation to Pauline this year. I've never given a political donation in Australian politics, because I think she's speaking the truth and what people, and I think there might be, I don't think she'll ever, I don't know whether one nation in our lifetime will be in power, but I do think that we are going to see a rising vote for one nation in this country, because neither party, in my opinion, here, much like in the US, well, the US had Trump, I suppose you could say, but
he's once in a
yeah, but we don't really have any leader that is really inspiring in Australia either. And Pauline has aged quite a bit now. She's been at this for a long, long time, and I send her all my good energy, because she's speaking up, and I will be voting for Pauline at the next election myself. I'll put it on record openly here.
Yeah,
that's the first time I would have done that, but I will. So I think it's going to be an interesting year next year. We have an election in Australia next year, and I think we'll see Labor go, and I think we'll see the Liberals come in, but I don't know that the Liberals are going to do anything majorly.
They're really not that much better in terms of what's going on globally right now. The kind of finger is off the pulse as well.
Hopefully they can,
Hey guys, I hope you are enjoying this podcast. I just wanted to let you know that we are going to be opening Unemployable Coaching 2025 in mid-January. This is going to be a really exciting program next year. It's going to include all the amazing things you saw in the last year: private property tours, private training days, one-on-one coaching, and so much more. If you are interested in being notified when the program goes live, simply go to unemployable.com.au/coaching. That's unemployable.com.au/coaching. Put in your information, we'll let you know. With that said, let's get back to the pod.
You said a proxy, take a look at what's happening in America and what Trump's first, I'm not the hugest politically backed person, but in his first term, it was like, oh, here's this fucking psycho at the helm, and now they're like getting back at the helm. And what he's doing this time around is bringing, what they were trying to achieve is unity, and I think that'll be interesting to watch that play out, getting the votes he did get from the blacks, from the Hispanics, from all that sort of stuff, and bringing it all together.
If you see there's like a table of all the people that Trump has assembled as part of his team And that is one of the smartest, most successful bunch of individuals you're ever going to see.
Across
That is a
everything.
very powerful coalition.
Yeah,
And we need to do a better job in Australia of bringing together powerful, intelligent people and unifying them. Otherwise, we're going to have our best people leave the country
yeah. Well,
in bigger droves.
and that's what I've just sort of said. Hopefully they do have their take the blinkers off and have a look at what's going on over there, because it's certainly
I think they'll be forced to. I think that's one of the things that
Sure.
happens when
Democracy.
when someone like America has such a change like that. Everyone else is going to be forced to change as well.
When I was in Boston a few years ago, I think it was Boston, and I went to the JFK Museum, and there was a little plaque, and it had a quote on it, and it said, "Every nation gets the leadership they deserve in a democracy," right? By JFK. That was a quote by him. And I was like, that's actually really powerful. And I hope Australia realize they deserve better. And we need to vote for better and be, just really, I'm personally really excited to see what happens in the US next year and the next 4 years, more so for the West, because as I've said in last Friday's pod about the advance of China, and we got to stop. Like I see these videos of like China launches a car with a flying helicopter on the back, like a drone that you can sit in, and they're actually flying these things in China right now. You pull up and it looks like a Cybertruck, and all the Aussies and the Americans are in the comments going, "Oh yeah, look, it's a Temu drone," right? And I'm like, we need to wake up. We're getting left way behind because we're letting our politicians run the roost. Jerry Harvey was in the press a couple of weeks ago saying Australia will be unrecognizable in 5 years if we don't have significant policy change. We cannot afford the checks that we are writing. We're writing checks for the wrong things. We're not investing in innovation. We're getting deeper and deeper in debt. And it's very, that's what's happening. And what we're seeing with this DOGE in America with the Department of Government Efficiency led by Vivek and Elon going in and pulling the glue and all the rubbish out of the system to create innovation, because Australia will get left behind if we don't start to really take seriously and pay some goddamn respect to these other countries that are out there getting things done. And I hope that we sort of start to watch and listen and learn to say, I don't know, or let me try to understand that better, instead of jumping into comments all over the world, pretending that we know everything, being convinced that we're such geniuses in everything when we're not.
If you look at that lineup, I don't know as well as you do, but you look at they're all successful business people. Not one of them's a career politician, to my knowledge, or not many of them in the other
Some are, but there's a lot of successful business people.
Yeah, I mean, like, it'd be nice if we had that sort of shake up and had some real sharp entrepreneurs at the helm.
And that's that's, we talk about this all the time, but that's the thing about business, right? At the end of the day, if you put out a shit product, or if you put out a product or service that has no value, everyone will vote with their wallets. And so only the fittest survive, right? That's the whole modus operandi for that right-wing meritocracy type policy, right? And we've gone so far away from meritocracy. And that's what creates so many problems, because it's not the best idea it's winning. It's not the most it's just people making decisions that they think are best for the populace. And
to move off politics, one quick round table.
Yep.
You can say pass. Who are you going to vote for in the Australian election next year? What party?
I have been a Liberal voter all my life. And after Dutton came out and supported the under 16 social media ban, I won't vote for him. I'll be voting for probably Pauline Hanson.
But I did this one year, not to be a smart ass, because there was no one I really wanted to vote for. I rang them up in the morning and I said, "What's the fine for not voting?" And they said $70. I said, "Do you take Amex?" And that was that. And this year I'll be down to who's heading up the party. But yeah, it certainly won't be any of these other Muppets on either side at the moment.
I agree with you, Adam. I don't think Pauline Hanson will win or will ever be in control of Australia. I don't think that the political system will allow for a third party to come in and govern. But if enough people vote for someone like Pauline Hanson, I think it's a shot across the bows for whoever does get in next, that they're going to have to adopt more of those policies, because Australia...
And it encourages people
who are... I'll vote for Pauline.
I think it's a vote for encouraging those who want to be real to to speak up and participate. And if people start seeing that gathering of momentum, that's why I'm going to vote Pauline. You?
I've always voted Liberal, and I'll probably continue voting Liberal. Now, there's a couple things that do I agree with or don't I agree with what you just mentioned about the under 16 social media ban. And I'm on the fence with that one because I don't like having control taken away, but being a father of, a 12-year-old child that is in the midst of social media, and she doesn't have a phone yet, and we're very strict on that side. But the issue is, I feel parents aren't in control of social media, and social media is a problem with young children, and I see it. And how I see it is because on my wife's phone, as an example, that's where she has her messages, and that's where she has the Snapchat and this type of thing, so we can have a look. And some of the stuff that we see is ridiculous. And I see kids that are 10, 11, 12 years old with a mobile phone with full access to TikTok and Snapchat and Instagram. And we've literally had letters from schools going, check out this chat. This is what's happening. And I've seen with my own eyes the shit that goes down. Now, I don't agree with, politicians coming in and trying to put in these regulations. But where the regulation and the boundaries need to come from is from the parents, and they're doing a fucking shit job, if you ask me.
Let me just say a couple of quick things. I do not disagree with what you're saying about the pitfalls and the dangers of social media. And I know, and I don't have a teenage kid, but I know that the shit is going down that parents are not in control of. So I respect and understand that point of view completely. But what happens when you ban social media is more grubby and underground versions of things that are not banned are going to pop up, and kids are creative and kids are resourceful, and they're going to find their ways to the more underground and grubby, disgusting versions of the things that are happening online.
Yeah.
So you're going to exacerbate a problem that currently exists. You're going to make it worse. It starts with, what do we always say on this podcast, where it always starts? It starts with education.
Yeah.
And we need to do a better job as a government, as leaders, in educating our parents on how to deal with the rise of technology and social media.
Yeah.
But like you said before, these guys don't have a fucking idea what's going on, and they don't have their fingers on their pulse, so they can't. So what do? They want to come in and control. It's just going to make things worse.
What's crazy is, and I won't go too deep in this, but every year at the school, there's a guy that's an ex-FBI agent in cybersecurity, and he does an education piece around cybersecurity and children. Now, of a school of probably, I don't even know, 700-800 students, there's probably maybe 30 to 40 parents there. That's the number one problem. Every parent needs to be there. Okay? Number two is, he used to be the guy that worked for the FBI on their other end, pretending to be the one luring the children. Pretending to be the child.
Right.
Talking to the person on the other end.
The pedo.
And the stories and the videos that you show, that it should scare the shit out of anybody, because no one would want to put their child in that scenario. Right now, it's a free-for-all, and it's a massive, it's a massive issue. No one will understand. You won't understand until you're in that position. Yeah. You will never understand. You will most likely maybe understand, depending how much you fall in love.
But
right. But so anyways, moving forward, we could get into this, but it's let's move on. But for me, I don't mind, the One Nation as well. My wife, I know who she'll be voting for. It's definitely not liberal or Labor, and most likely will be One Nation. So depending on how many,
so you're going to say the Greens,
how many more fuck ups, these guys make with some of their things that they want to put in place, I might be going One Nation. But at the moment, it's probably still the problem.
I think most Australians would love to be able to ban social media for teenagers up to a certain point, but I think a lot of the contention comes from how.
Yes.
And it's this idea that, Craig Kelly came out and said, this is what's actually going to happen, is that every adult has to get ID'd every time they use social media with facial recognition.
Yeah, that's shit.
And that
Data's great.
that is a very, very big price
Yeah.
to pay in terms of private intrusion. Now, there are going to be plenty of people that say this is just a Trojan horse. It's a conspiracy theory. And you know what? The conspiracy theorists have been...
They've all played out.
They've all played out.
Sure, so find me a conspiracy. But
Thanks, Jen.
there's like one that hasn't played out, the flat Earth one. That's like,
But not only that, I apologized openly myself because I was on that anti side, but those people were right about a lot of things.
But I mean, how are they going to do it? Like, the simple thing is just get a VPN. Like, it's a quick hack around it. Like, it's not going to take. It's going to be so difficult to throttle. Like, she's got a 5-year-old, and it's like, well, how do you throttle this thing? Can there be like a PG version that they've got to be up to 10 or what? I don't know. It's got to be.
Honestly, I think 16. To be honest with you, 16 is a bit old. Like at 16, and I remember what I was doing when I was 16, right? And
just keep that to yourself.
Yeah, but we, younger maybe, but I understand. Like they show you something here, right? Look at the shiny object. Meanwhile, there's all these other things happening in the background, like the face recognition for adults that you don't know about, that then comes in and goes, holy shit, all because of that.
How do you trust them when on the night of the US election, they're trying to jam through the free speech laws? Like
the misinformation.
The misinformation bill. Like that's when they chose to try to do that. And it got thrown out, thank God. But anyway, that kind of shit is what, when are they going to learn the internet always wins?
And
people, you can't get this shit by anymore.
This comes back to the whole accelerationist versus status quo debate that's going to shape.
Okay, so moving on. You reckon that's the accelerator. Anybody else got just a global view quickly on what 2025 is going to be the year of from a global perspective?
I think we need to embrace technology and change more than ever. With the AI growing and the TikTok shops and these types of technologies that are coming through, things that used to work really, really well for a lot of businesses won't work the same moving forward. And I think we need to embrace that and not be arrogant towards what we've been doing and thinking, oh, you know what, we'll just stay in our lane and do the exact same thing. You have to embrace the change in technology. And another thing, that I'm going to be working on, and I have been working on a lot, and I want others to take this on board, is take that scarcity mindset and throw it out the window and try and change it to more of an abundant mindset and help others. Don't be scared to help others. But first you need to help yourself, right? You're the first one that has to put on the oxygen mask in the airplane, put it on yourself. But once you're sorted, help others.
That definitely ripples through. And I think that's going to be a growing trend where people are kind of, it used to be, oh, I'm going to go out and I'm going to do something that's going to save the world. And it's like, you can't even make your bed. And it's like the whole podcast movement and Huberman movement and Chris Williamson is encouraging people to fix their own backyard. And then that butterfly effect ripples out.
And it's, when I say help others, it doesn't just have to be in a monetary way, right? It's not about a business way. I was at the gym the other day, and the guy comes up to me that I met a few weeks before when he's like, the podcast, I followed Adam, I love you guys, I love what you guys are doing. And then I seen him the next week and I'm like, hey buddy, how are you? And he was kind of dazed and confused. And he's like, sorry bro, I can't talk, family issues. And he walked off. I was like, wow, this is it. And he's probably in his mid 50s. And then the following week I see him again. And he comes up to me and he apologizes, and he's got his thumbnail painted black. And he kind of showed me his thumbnail. And I go, what's up with that? He goes, sorry about the other week, but I just got back from my brother's funeral. Right. And he committed suicide.
Yeah.
And he goes, in my eyes, he was good, happy, this, that, right, semi-retired, had money. I never thought to ask, how you doing? What's the problem? And that's what I mean about helping others is going, when you feel like you need to reach out to someone, call them. Don't send them a text. Don't send them a voice note. Old school style, call them, get on the phone, catch up for a coffee, whatever that may be. Man, woman, child, spend some time with the kids, one-on-one. How you doing? Open communication. Because to me, I think moving forward, that's very important. I always say we're the most connected we've ever been through these fucking devices, yet the most disconnected we've ever been as a human society. And the reality is it will just get worse, and it will get worse, and it will get worse. So just pick up the phone, talk to people, ask how they're doing, and help in any way possible.
All right, last round table quickly. I think we've spoken about change enough for next year from a global level. I personally think we're going to see a year of hope and enthusiasm for things led by the US. And I think that only because there's, they've expressed something that I think a lot of people all over the world have tapped into. And I think we're going to see a lot of deregulation, hopefully, and encouragement of realization that somebody's finally pointing out the truth about the ways of the West and the way it's been going and the massive mounting levels of debt. And it's time to actually stop laughing at everyone else and start taking care of our own backyard. And I think I said on last Friday pod, seeing that young guy who went to China and said, this is China today. This is the subways in Shenzhen. This is the subways in New York City. You tell me where you'd rather be, So I think, we're going to see some revitalization and hope come into things. Okay, we'll close off with this. The number one business trend of 2025 for our listeners. I'll lead off. I know that I'm probably going to say the same thing as a lot of you, but I think a big opportunity for a lot of entrepreneurs listening out there. There's probably two big ones, but I'll just say one, and I'm sure you guys pick the other one. I think TikTok is going to become the platform. I think it's going to be, I was very, very, very late on this. Gary Vee called this years ago, and he was correct again. But TikTok is, in my mind, now that I properly understand it, by having Raf on here twice on the pod, I think it's going to absolutely be a game changer for Australian entrepreneurs, hands down. And then they're live shopping on TikTok as well. I only know a little bit about that, but just deeply understanding the difference between TikTok's algorithm and everybody else's algorithm, I think that's a game changer.
And I think you can kind of sum that up as the emergence of social shopping versus search engine shopping. I think, there's a good chance, and even Gary Vee said this, that Google might not be around in 12, 24, 3 years, might not be around. So the emergence of social shopping versus...
And performance marketing versus influencer marketing.
Yeah.
That was a distinction I learned from Rafi, is that these days you don't need to have influence to produce performance.
That's right. Yeah.
That's a really interesting observation that, please guys, when that pod comes out, it'll be out early next year with Raf, part 2 of Raf was saying. Watch part 1, it's already in our channel, but part 2 comes out early next year. It's a game changer.
This is that there that you've just explained is my number one focus from a business and e-commerce point of view. It's a thing I think is the biggest and largest domino. So
we're launching a consumer product next year, and our primary focus will be TikTok Shop, not Amazon, not even Shopify.
Yeah, and just to second that also, predominantly, when Raf did that speech at the Wealth Day not so long ago, it was an eye-opener for me as well. Like, I don't have a physical products-based business, and being highly demonstrative, but then I'm working on a project at the moment, and went back to the potential business partner and said, oh, look, they've got lawyers on TikTok now, accountants for TikTok. It's not just for physical products, and it's not girls and boys who are 15 dancing, with lollipop and their hair and ponytails. It's actually matured. So yeah, TikTok for sure. We're in the niche we're looking at the moment. There's actually influencers on there now that put one crazy video, not even a crazy video, sorry, I should say the video went crazy with 10 million views. Aussie based, just about the journey on this specific niche. I'm like, fuck, didn't see it. 10 million eyeballs. Yeah. And I've been performance marketing for 2007, running paid traffic, and one video for free again went viral. Like, that's a fucking lot of eyeballs.
What was the young lady's name from CMY Cubes or CMY Cubes? What was her name? She was on
Gabby.
She's from Brisbane or
Sydney.
Sydney. She's from Sydney, and she put up her product, like her color cubes. I think it's cmycubes.com. You can look them up. 3 million views in 24 hours from one video. And, but she now has 170,000 TikTok influencers, performance marketers promoting her CMY cubes, living in Sydney with her husband, 170,000. And she said to us on that pod, she said, what is amazing about the TikTok shop back end for product owners is you can go in there and you can say, you set your ROAS, so your return on ad spend, so you want $5 for every $1 spent. The affiliates, these creators, create all these ads, push them onto TikTok. TikTok runs tests on all of them, finds the best performing ones, and only runs the ones that they know will reach your goal of 5x return.
Shit, I missed
And
that
this
podcast.
all happens automatically.
It'll be released.
Oh, it hasn't been released?
It hasn't been released. And shit, so we were just sitting there going, hang on, Gabby, just back up and say that again. And she's doing millions of dollars a year selling a plastic cube that her husband made for her.
Folder for that one.
She did 400 grand in November, 1 month, thousands and thousands
of units. Her husband, who's by their own admission, they're two nerds and they're lovely, lovely people. And he made her this light prism in their workshop at home just to explain to her how light refraction worked. And then they put a video of it up showing it on TikTok, 3 million views in 24 hours. And then they went, oh shit, let's put a buy button, see if we can start a business. This is literally how they started. They bought the domain off GoDaddy. And then when it said, would you like a website as well? They went, yes. And that was their first website. And I'm not kidding. And so this is the power of TikTok. And they didn't need to reach out to any influencers. The influencers are on the platform already and they're performance marketers. So they get paid based on results and they've just got to create great content.
And not only that, the thing that really sort of struck me as well is like, you know, for an Instagram, it's highly polished, highly produced content. Whereas if you look in the trends on TikTok, it's the least amount of production value behind it, and it's raw, real, and short, and bang off an iPhone. So that's what people want.
Just another quick one. I think the biggest winners of 2024 were the nerds and the tech enthusiasts and whatnot, and the biggest losers were Hollywood celebrities.
Oh yeah. So if you want to follow Gabs, just while we're talking about her Instagram is Scale with Gabs, because I think she does some coaching. And her Instagram for her brand is CMY, so cyan, magenta, yellow, which is where it comes from, CMY Cubes. So at CMY Cubes on Instagram, and you can go to cmycubes.com to go see her. And she's just a ripping chick. Like, she's such a good chick. All of us at the end of it were like, man, what an awesome woman. Husband seems like a super nice dude. But anyway, I think TikTok, and the other thing I think is going to be huge is we're going to see more and more emergence of really interesting AI coming through. Like, I look at the speed of evolution of AI, and I think we're going to see some amazing stuff as we blend together. Like, I don't know if you've been seeing some of the robotics that are starting to come along. We were just talking about this off pod outside. We watched a coffee making machine out of China. Eric wants to do this as a business, but it was unreal at this technology show in Shenzhen that this young guy and this robot makes a coffee in front of you and has a little camera and takes a photo of your face. And then when the coffee's done, it comes out, he hands it to you. And on the top is a photorealistic rendering of your face made with the cinnamon or the chocolate.
The milk froth.
The milk froth sitting on top of the milk froth. Yeah, whatever the milk froth. And it's like a photo. It's crazy. So when you see this sort of robotics coming together with AI together, I think we're going to see some mind-blowing shit.
Yeah.
I'm going to come from left field a little bit, and I agree with what you guys are saying. I think a trend will be, and has been still, but will be moving forward, is traditional businesses. And the reason why I say that is there's a lot of baby boomers, right, with half decent sized businesses that have been doing things like James says, right, the old fax machine style businesses. And a lot of the younger generation don't want traditional businesses, right, because they want to do TikTok shop, and I want to set an e-com store, and I want to work from home, and I want to work from Cyprus and these types of places, and Dubai, and right, that's a trend. And funny enough, it was just last week that I was on a phone call with someone that was looking at a traditional business that then reached out and said, hey, I've got an opportunity here. I've been looking at this for a few months. The price has come down. Would you be interested? And he fully broke it down. He did all the due diligence. Very, very, very savvy guy, young guy. And I looked at the business and I asked the questions, and I'm like, all right, so these are the numbers. He goes, yeah, I've literally fine tooth comb. I'm like, okay. And then I'm like, so what's their sales strategy? It's just inbound. I'm like, what do you mean inbound? No sales, no marketing, right? No BDMs, no sales reps. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And this is what they're doing in revenue and in profit. And anyways, I said, put in an offer. Let's put in an offer. And someone like within that hour put it in and it went unconditional now. But those style of businesses that you can go, they're not doing a lot of these things, getting a traditional style business and then implementing new tech,
Very
implementing
young guy that's
AI.
Hope who's
Yes.
doing that sort of stuff.
That's who I was talking.
I like this because
Right.
as someone who just did a startup, and you guys are all in the startup space as well, I'd be hard pressed at the moment to start another startup. I'd be more inclined to buy a business.
Exactly what I've been talking about recently. The exact same thing. We have a business coaching client that I was on a call last week that goes, I've got $1.2 million put aside. Eric, I want your advice. I want to buy a business, right? But I need a jockey to run it. So if you're out there and you don't have a lot of money, but you've got some expertise or you got some energy to get into a business and you want a bit of skin in the game, there's people out there that have money that want to back someone that need to find a business. And I told someone yesterday, I said, what you need to be doing is going out there, ringing business brokers and looking at multiple businesses, breaking them down, weeding out the shit and seeing what's good, just like these guys are doing. And there's going to be opportunities that come up that you can then take and go and implement a sales strategy, implement a marketing strategy, put in some AI into the business and triple the revenue.
And one more layer to that as well is go to have a chat with the business brokers, use them for what they are, and go and look at read financial statements and whatnot. Then when you worked out what the sector you're after, is then go and private contact people and do private outreach and cut the broker out altogether. Because 9 times out of 10, when the business hits a broker, it's usually a lemon.
Yeah.
So
but it's research, it's education.
So it's education first, and that's small scale M&A for boomer-led, non-sexy businesses is.
What's going to happen to all these baby boomers that are going to retire? Where are the businesses going to go? You tell me.
What's the stats is I think it's only 20% of businesses that hit broker websites actually sell. The rest throw the keys back and walk away because the kids don't want to take them over because they're boring. Consider a boring business.
I tell you something. I think you speaking about abundance. I think at the moment ideas are in abundance, right? And I think cash at the top end, cash for new businesses, is in abundance. I think that for the people watching the show that are thinking, shit, I'm done with my 9 to 5, or I'm not sure if this career is for me, I think the need where there's a scarcity is, like you just said, the operator.
Yeah.
And if you can pitch yourself as an operator because you have a skill set or you have an inclination to be able to run something in a certain way, I think that's going to be the big scarcity.
What I like about existing businesses is 2 things. 1, you have cash flow straight away. 2, you can lend on it. If a bank is willing to lend on a business, banks are quite risk averse. So if they'll tell you no, that means it's probably not the best business, right? They'll be your gatekeeper. And if they tell you yes, it's probably because it's got some legs. So if you're someone with not a lot of money, to go and start a startup with not a lot of money is not a great idea. Unless you're finding the money from somewhere.
Super high risk.
Right, and super high risk.
And not only that, when you've got a boomer-led business, if you're looking for something that's 15 or more years, you've generally got product market fit. Like it's
Totally.
the propensity for a fuck up is far less.
The thing is, they're non-sexy, right? And this is the thing.
But also,
back when we were talking about passion, right? Like this business that we're looking at wasn't a passion business, but it solved the problem. And like you said,
$500,000 EBITDA is fairly passionate.
But just so we're clear, right? We spoke on the previous pod. We spoke about LSKD as selling activewear, and it's like it wasn't like there was a shortage of activewear in the market, but they reimagined the way to deliver activewear. A lot of these old businesses are dying for someone to come and reimagine their message, or even reimagine their product. And the upside potential on some of these old businesses is just incredible if we do it in new ways.
I think it definitely will be a trend. It's not as sexy, but I think for the right people, it can work.
And if you're interested in this, go and follow Alex Hormozy, because his whole business model is basically trying to attract equity stake in these old school businesses.
The other one is Cody Sanders. He's really good in this space.
And the other thing too, like it's the supply demand sort of curve as well. It's like these people are getting older; they do have to get out of the business.
Being spontaneous, like that for us is big, and I don't think we're living enough by being in that spontaneous world. Everything's just so regulated, put in a calendar. Like we need to, like you as an example, when I seen that and you posted what you can get from 1.3 million Aussie, I was just like, this is crazy. But you could get that in Cyprus. Now you're living there in a beautiful place, but how spontaneous can you be? Hey, let's go to Spain this weekend, or let's go to Dubai, or let's go to Italy, like the proximity. And I think coming from Canada, we're very close to things in Canada, right? Europe, 6 hours away. US, within 5 hours, within 2 hours, you're in Florida. So it's quite close. I think what happens is when we live in Australia, so far away from everything that we feel secluded and going, hey, let's do a quick trip here. And it's like, oh man, that's 24 hours. And then you got to go for at least X amount of weeks because you got 3 days of jet lag and all this stuff. Whereas when you're making different life choices like you are and like your sister is and like some of my friends are, that's what they love.
I've been looking at planes in Cyprus to buy just a small plane. And well, it's so accessible and not that expensive. Like there are people, yeah, a little bit better, but yeah, but yeah, not Grant Cardone G6 type of stuff, but like a small
Air Force Trump.
No, a new plane, but not like a $60 million Gulfstream, and like the places you can get. Like, I can be in the Middle East at a conference, or I can go up to pretty much anywhere in Europe, and we can just go down to Larnaca Airport, jump in your own plane and take off. And for the price of a good boat in Australia, you can get a really good new plane. And I said to Cass, we should think about that seriously. Like I've got the time, and there's loads of Australians. Like the marina's full of boats for $2 million. You can get an amazing plane for $2 million.
Wow.
Yeah. And I'm like, I don't like boats, but the idea of going down to the airport and being able to fly to London or Paris for lunch is amazing.
That's so cool.
And I've been really getting into it. And I haven't told anyone, but that's what I've been looking at. And I'm like,
well, you just told 5,000.
Yeah. Well, now I've just decided to tell you guys, which is I feel afraid of being.
Can we set up a WhatsApp group just for sharing this kind of information? Because this is inspiring shit, right?
Well, yeah, I worry about people, but being, pulling you down, but fuck it. That's what I'm
not gonna.
That's what I'm thinking about. And I'm like, that's actually possible. And it's only when you start opening your mind. Like we've both got friends that have got $2 million boats or had them. And I'm like, you could buy I can kill a plane for 2 people. And
I want to open your mind. Open your mind WhatsApp chat between the panelists.
Because I look at that thing like next year, I want to do heaps of this sort of business travel. So I can go to I see these amazing technology conferences in the Middle East. I've been looking in places like Oman and Abu Dhabi and places. There's some unbelievable stuff. But if you got your own plane, man, you can just go where you want, when you want, and a brand new plane, so it's safe and it's a 4-seater and you can go wherever and it's sick, really nice thing, $2 million. That's the advantage of being in a spot like that, as opposed to Australia. You can't go anywhere. There's what are you gonna do? You're gonna go to Sydney and Melbourne just back and forward all the time, whereas when you're there, you go, hey, let's hop over to south of France for a few days, refuel the plane, and they go. And it sounds stupid, but they're not expensive to run. I'm not talking a jet. I'm talking like a.
You'd charter a captain. Would you learn to fly?
I'll learn to fly. Yeah, planes are quite easy to learn to fly compared to a helicopter, for example.
Helicopters aren't tough. I've got some smart mates that struggled.
Yeah, like Wayne's a helicopter pilot. I did a lot of head training with him.
Yeah,
it's a lot harder. Whereas a plane, I would have a captain with me for first few flights and stuff. But once you know how to fly, you can go anywhere, and it's not that expensive.
That is crazy, John. It's a whole big world out there, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's not that expensive to run either when you get the right plane. And you could charter it, or you could do. There's heaps of ways you can fund a plane as well once you've got it. So anyway, that's something to think about. But I think that's going to be a trend: is people starting to think differently about what do I want in my life? And I think this whole time
that's the positive thing about social media, right? It's like you were sitting in your suburb at home and you had no one that you could kind of got you or you could relate to. And now all of a sudden there's these communities that are popping up all over the world with people that you can relate to. And as the means becomes available, like you're saying, people are going to say, well, let's fuck it. Let's go hang out with this community.
It's totally like that sort of stuff.
You can choose your friends, can't choose your family, right?
There will be a community of people around that. And I think if I do that and start posting, hey, here I am, I'm going to fly to Athens today, and I'm not in a fancy jet, just in a sort of more accessible thing. You get 2 or 3 of your mates together, you put in 700-800 grand, you can have something sick. And you got it for pretty much whenever you want it.
The things that is inspiring me most at the moment is hearing you talk about this Cyprus journey that you're about to go on. And for me, I think it's because freedom is such a high value on my values makeup. And hearing you talk about this, it just feels like freedom, right? And so, yeah, I think it's incredible. Keep discussing.
Not seeing sharing. So, guys, that is the end of the pod. Mark, let's finish up.
One last question, and this is a prediction. How many subscribers do you guys think will be at for the last pod in 2025?
I did the math the other night, so I'm just going to dig it out.
All right.
What do you think?
I'm going to take this to
Oh, I want 10,000 within 6 months. So within 12 months, it would be nice to have 15,000.
Mine was very close to Eric's. Yeah. So I just did it based on math. I look at the current growth rate and continue that forward on a compounding basis, and down 15.
What he said.
I'm going to go out there and say 100,000. I think there's going to be some sort of one that we don't expect.
Or we do a naked podcast.
We're going to go viral. Got to lose subscribers.
I'll short that bet for sure. I'll tell you the other side.
What do you want to bet?
Mate, fucking my highlighter back would be nice.
All right, so it's the overs or the unders?
If Mark takes his shirt off, maybe.
Yeah, I'll do it if it gets us to 100,000.
Depends how many more times we go viral.
Yeah, well, it's all down to you, Eric, alternate Mr. Influencer. That's funny. Guys, thank you so much for your participation this year in our pod. We really appreciate it. We're going to take some time off now over the break. Just think about the next phase of the pod. We got through year 1, we survived and we thrived to a degree. And I think we're very proud of what we've done so far. But none of it would be possible without you guys dropping comments and sending us DMs and encouraging us and helping us and, just being who you are. So we really appreciate you. We've got some big announcements early in the new year for some great stuff coming in 2025 as a community. So we're going to be building the community side of Unemployable a lot next year. A big part of it's going to be real estate, which we think is the foundational building block for a lot of our people for wealth. And we're doing some very cool stuff there. We've got a whole bunch of stuff happening, so we'll share all that. But hand on heart from all of us here on the panel, a big thank you, and we look forward to seeing you in the flip side. Stay safe, have a great Christmas, have a great new year, and we look forward to hearing of your stories as we go forward. Bye for now.
Hey there, I hope you enjoyed that episode of Unemployable. If you'd like to watch another episode, just click there.